Ever wondered how 1980s queer cinema dared to tell the stories no one else would? Let's explore 20 gay films of the decade that pushed boundaries and still resonate today. Also, if you love celebrating queer cinema as much as we do, visit our new store. We've got exclusive LGBTQ+ movie posters and stickers inspired by the films we talk about. Every purchase helps support the channel. Tongues Untied.
Brother to brother, 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 brother to brother.
Directed by Marlon T. Riggs, Tongues Untied is a deeply personal documentary blending poetry, performance, and confession. Riggs narrates his own experiences as a black gay man in America, confronting racism, homophobia, and silence. Through spoken word, archival clips, and dance sequences, the film captures the rhythm of everyday life in black queer communities. Riggs's voice weaves between the personal and collective, childhood memories, friendship, and grief caused by the AIDS crisis. Poets Essex Hemphill and Joseph Beam lend their words, blending art and activism. Instead of a linear plot, it unfolds as a series of emotional vignettes: pain, pride, laughter, and resistance. By its end, Tongues Untied stands as both autobiography and anthem, celebrating a community that refuses to be invisible, showing lives, voices, and love surviving despite erasure. Longtime companion.
In 1981, a group of friends were having the best time of their lives, a time they thought would never end. And then one day, their lives changed forever.
Directed by Norman Renee, Longtime Companion follows a group of gay friends in New York as the AIDS epidemic changes their lives. The story begins in 1981 on Fire Island, where carefree summer days and friendships flourish. Willie, Fuzzy, Howard, and their circle enjoy laughter, love, and ambition, until news reports of a mysterious gay cancer disrupt everything. The film then spans nearly a decade as the group faces loss after loss. Partners dying, fear rising, and friendships deepening. Campbell Scott, Bruce Davison, and Mary Louise Parker deliver heartfelt performances that show both the joy and despair of a generation. Davison's portrayal of David's decline and quiet dignity became one of the film's most devastating moments. Longtime Companion doesn't sensationalize tragedy. It simply follows ordinary people forced into extraordinary strength, making every goodbye hit harder as the years and names fade into memory. Looking for Langston. Directed by Isaac Julian, Looking for Langston is a lyrical tribute to poet Langston Hughes and black queer identity. The film moves between dreamlike sequences, Harlem's jazz clubs, smoky bedrooms, and black and white portraits of desire. Instead of dialogue, it relies on poetry, whispered voices, and slow-motion imagery to tell the story of longing and unspoken love between men. The characters drift through timeless spaces, lovers separated by prejudice, writers silenced by history, and dreamers who find freedom only in imagination. Archival footage blends with staged scenes, creating a film that feels like memory brought to life. It's not about Hughes's literal biography, but about the world he inspired, a secret society of beauty, art, and forbidden tenderness. With its haunting atmosphere and poetic editing, Looking for Langston stands as a cinematic love letter to black gay men erased from history. Coming out.
Kennst du das? Wenn du abends dein Bett machst? Dieses Gefühl, dass diese Nacht vielleicht doch noch jemand klingelt. Aber es kommt keiner.
Directed by Heiner Caro, Coming Out was the first and only East German film to portray homosexuality openly. It tells the story of Philip, a young teacher in Berlin who appears to have a perfect life with his girlfriend, Tanya. But everything changes when he meets Matthias, a kind and confident man who lives openly gay. Philippe is drawn to Matthias but struggles with his identity, torn between fear, shame, and desire. Their relationship grows amidst the tension of East German society, where acceptance is rare and secrecy is survival. As the Berlin Wall begins to crumble, Philip faces his own personal liberation, deciding whether to live truthfully or continue hiding. The film's release coincided with the night the wall fell, giving it an eerie historical resonance. Coming Out captures the quiet bravery it takes to live authentically in a world built on repression. Torch Song Trilogy,
Can you use a couple of bucks, Arnold? Just till you're on your feet.
I'm on my feet, Daddy.
Yeah, in 6-inch heels.
Based on Harvey Fierstein's play and directed by Paul Bogart, Torch Song Trilogy follows Arnold Beckoff, a gay drag performer in New York played by Fierstein himself. Arnold's life unfolds across 3 chapters: his heartbreak with a closeted lover, his deep relationship with a young model named Alan, and his struggle for acceptance from his mother, played by Anne Bancroft. The story spans years of love, loss, and resilience as Arnold confronts bigotry, loneliness, and the death of his partner. Matthew Broderick appears as Alan, whose charm and optimism contrast Arnold's guarded heart. Through pain and laughter, Arnold learns that self-respect is the greatest act of love. By the end, when he faces his mother's disapproval head-on, Arnold finally embraces his truth. It's both a personal and universal journey about finding pride amid heartbreak, performed with sincerity and fire. The Fruit Machine.
The Fruit Machine. Die Odyssee zweier Jungen, denen man das Recht nehmen will, so zu leben.
Directed by Philip Saville, The Fruit Machine, also known as Wonderland, follows 2 gay teenagers, Eddie and Michael, who stumble into a nightmare after witnessing a murder in a Liverpool gay club. The pair flee across England with a mysterious woman named Annabelle, pursued by both the killer and the police. On the run, they form an unlikely bond as they navigate fear, friendship, and identity. Eddie, wild and impulsive, hides his vulnerability behind humor, while Michael struggles to accept who he is. Their journey takes them from gritty city streets to neon nightclubs to the windswept seaside, each scene pulsing with 1980s energy. Despite its thriller setup, the film focuses on emotional survival, the fear of being hunted not only for what you've seen, but for who you are. The Fruit Machine mixes danger with tenderness, showing youth lost in a world that refuses to understand them. Law of Desire.
Sí.
Hola, Pablo. Soy Juan.
Hola, Juan. ¿Cómo estás?
Mal. Muy mal. ¿Por qué no contestas a mis cartas?
Directed by Pedro Almodóvar, Law of Desire is a wild, stylish exploration of obsession, jealousy, and control. The story follows Pablo, a gay filmmaker played by Eusebio Poncela, who becomes entangled in a volatile love triangle. Pablo is still in love with his ex, Juan, but begins an affair with a possessive young man named Antonio, played by Antonio Banderas in one of his breakout roles. As Antonio's jealousy spirals, passion turns to violence, blurring the line between love and madness. Pablo's sister Tina, played by Carmen Mora, is a transgender actress whose own emotional wounds echo his. Every scene bursts with Almodóvar's trademark color, sensuality, and chaos. As lies unravel and desires consume everyone involved, Law of Desire becomes a story about how love can destroy and redeem in equal measure, leaving no one untouched by the chaos of passion. Maurice.
Where'd you come from?
The old schoolroom. It's as much like college as I could make.
Directed by James Ivory and based on E.M. Forster's novel, Maurice tells the story of Maurice Hall, played by James Wilby, a young man growing up in Edwardian England where homosexuality is forbidden. At Cambridge, Maurice falls in love with his classmate Clive, played by Hugh Grant, but their relationship must remain hidden. When Clive chooses to marry to preserve his reputation, Maurice is devastated. Struggling with guilt and repression, he tries to cure himself through hypnosis, but nothing changes. His life shifts when he meets Alex Scudder, a gamekeeper played by Rupert Graves whose directness and honesty awaken Morris's courage. Their secret affair becomes a lifeline, a love grounded not in society's approval but in truth. The film ends with Morris risking everything to be with Alec, escaping the suffocating expectations of his class. Maurice is a tender, tragic, yet ultimately hopeful portrait of forbidden love. Prick up your ears.
Hello.
Hello, dear.
I'm a cultivated person, John. You'll find it rubs off.
The truth?
Can you spell?
Yes.
Not after.
Directed by Stephen Frears, Prick Up Your Ears dramatizes the turbulent life and tragic death of playwright Joe Orton, played by Gary Oldman. The film traces Orton's rise from a poor, rebellious youth to a celebrated playwright known for his dark humor. His long-term partner, Kenneth Halliwell, played by Alfred Molina, is an aspiring writer whose own career falters as Orton's fame grows. What begins as a loving partnership turns toxic. Kenneth becomes jealous and unstable, while Joe seeks freedom and new lovers. The tension builds as their artistic collaboration collapses under emotional strain. Through flashbacks and interviews, the film pieces together their relationship, leading to its shocking end. Kenneth's murder of Joe, followed by his suicide. With sharp dialogue and raw performances, Prick Up Your Ears captures how love and envy can become inseparable, driving two brilliant men toward destruction. Caravaggio.
Ranuccio! Achille, you're blind. I did it for you. Blood Brothers.
Directed by Derek Jarman, Caravaggio reimagines the life of the 17th century painter, Michelangelo Merici da Caravaggio, portrayed by Nigel Terry. The story unfolds through Caravaggio's memories as he lies dying, reflecting on his rise from poverty to fame and the loves that defined his art. He shares a charged bond with his model and lover Ranuccio, played by Sean Bean, and a complex relationship with Ranuccio's girlfriend Lena, played by Tilda Swinton. Their entanglement leads to jealousy, betrayal, and ultimately violence. The film mixes historical realism with modern imagery, typewriters, neon lights, creating a surreal atmosphere that mirrors Caravaggio's emotional chaos. His passion and artistic brilliance are inseparable from his self-destructive nature. As he paints beauty born from darkness, his world collapses around him. Jarman's film portrays the artist as both genius and sinner, obsessed with light even as he's consumed by his own shadows. Mala Noche.
So,
¿Qué tal?
¿vas a trabajar?
No,
No, ¿por qué?
I'm off.
Directed by Gus Van Sant, Mala Noche tells the story of Walt, a lonely bookstore clerk in Portland, played by Tim Streeter, who becomes infatuated with Johnny, a young Mexican immigrant. Walt's obsession is immediate. He buys Johnny gifts, offers him money, and tries to win his affection. But Johnny barely speaks English and shows little interest. Their connection is awkward, one-sided, and filled with miscommunication. As Walt chases Johnny through the city's underbelly, the film captures a raw portrait of longing, loneliness, and desire that can't find a home. Van Sant shot the film in grainy black and white on a shoestring budget, giving it a documentary feel. Every scene feels real. Gritty apartments, empty streets, half-spoken confessions. Mala Noche isn't about romance fulfilled, but about the aching space between people, where love is more imagined than lived. Parting Glances.
ATM and a box at the opera. I never dine at a restaurant less than 2 stars. What do you say?
Chem lab Saturday morning.
Directed by Bill Sherwood, Parting Glances follows Michael and Robert, a couple living in New York City during the height of the AIDS crisis. The film takes place over a single 24-hour period as Robert prepares to leave for a long work trip, while Michael wrestles with his feelings and cares for his ex-boyfriend Nick, who is living with AIDS. Steve Buscemi delivers a moving performance as Nick, a sarcastic, charismatic man who masks his pain with humor. The story doesn't rely on melodrama. Instead, it shows everyday moments of laughter, jealousy, and love in the shadow of fear. Friends gather for parties, awkward dinners, and goodbyes that carry unspoken weight. By the end, when Michael visits Nick one last time, the film's quiet realism turns deeply emotional. Parting Glances captures a generation balancing normalcy with heartbreak, finding beauty even in the ordinary. Buddies.
But it's just for today, I guess. A new antibiotic. But it hurts to move my arms with the needles.
Directed by Arthur J. Bresson Jr., Buddies is one of the first American films to directly address AIDS. The story centers on David, a gay volunteer assigned to visit Roger, a man dying of AIDS in a New York hospital. At first, David is nervous, unsure what to say, while Roger is defensive and sarcastic. But as their visits continue, a bond forms through stories, laughter, and painful honesty. Roger shares his regrets and past loves. David begins to understand the fear and stigma surrounding the disease. The film's setting is minimal, mostly Roger's small hospital room, focusing entirely on conversation and connection. As Roger's health declines, David becomes his only friend. There are no dramatic speeches or big moments, just quiet humanity. By the end, David is left alone, changed forever. Buddies is raw and intimate, reminding us how compassion becomes resistance when the world turns away. My Beautiful Laundrette. Directed by Stephen Frears and written by Hanif Qureshi, My Beautiful Laundrette tells the story of Omar, a young British-Pakistani man trying to prove himself in Thatcher-era London. Given control of a rundown laundromat by his wealthy uncle, Omar decides to renovate it with the help of his childhood friend Johnny, a white punk played by Daniel Day-Lewis. As they work together, their friendship rekindles into romance. Surrounded by racism, economic struggle, and family pressure, Omar and Johnny's relationship becomes both a business partnership and a secret love affair. The laundromat transforms into a symbol of reinvention, a small corner of freedom in a divided society. Their affection is quiet but daring, defying every expectation around them. With its mix of humor and realism, My Beautiful Laundrette became a landmark in queer cinema, showing love surviving amidst chaos and class conflict. Another country.
Hazard! Out! You were a disgrace to the house, you were a disgrace to the entire school.
I reckon that's worth the full 6 straight.
Directed by Marek Kaniewska, Another Country is set in a 1930s English boarding school and stars Rupert Everett as Guy Bennett, a student hiding his homosexuality, and Colin Firth as Tommy Judd, a rebellious Marxist. The story examines how repression, class, and loyalty collide within the elite system. Guy's secret affair with another student exposes the hypocrisy of the school's moral code, where scandal is worse than sin. When rumors spread, he's humiliated, and the betrayal from friends pushes him towards cynicism and defiance. Years later, we learn he defected to the Soviet Union, abandoning the country that shamed him. Told through flashbacks, the film portrays youth crushed by conformity. Everett delivers a haunting performance, charming yet broken, while Firth's Judd serves as his ideological mirror. Another Country exposes how fear of exposure shapes destinies, turning love into rebellion. L'homme blessé.
Qu'est-ce que tu veux?
La haine, c'est la règle numéro 1.
Directed by Patrice Chéreau, L'homme blessé follows Henri, a shy teenager who becomes obsessed with a mysterious older man named Jean, played by Vittorio Mezzogiorno. After a brief encounter in a train station, Henri becomes consumed, following Jean into a world of danger, hustlers, and hidden desires. What begins as curiosity turns into a destructive fixation. Henri abandons his family, his innocence, and his moral compass as he chases Jean through Paris's underworld. The film captures the blurred line between attraction and self-destruction, showing desire that consumes more than it fulfills. Jean is both mentor and manipulator, charming, cruel, and magnetic. Henri, desperate for connection, mistakes control for love. The cinematography drenches every frame in shadow and sweat, turning Paris into a labyrinth of obsession. The wounded man is raw and unsettling, a descent into passion that refuses to be sanitized. Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence.
It was a wonderful Christmas. You were drunk.
May I go on and on?
Directed by Nagisa Oshima, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence takes place in a Japanese POW camp during World War II. David Bowie stars as Captain Jack Selliers, a rebellious British officer who challenges the authority of the camp's commandant, Captain Yonoi, played by Ryuichi Sakamoto. Their relationship evolves into a tense psychological duel, filled with unspoken admiration and attraction. Lieutenant Colonel Lawrence, portrayed by Tom Conti, serves as interpreter and mediator between the prisoners and guards. The story unfolds through confrontations, punishments, and acts of compassion that blur the boundaries between enemies. Sellier's defiance fascinates Yonoi, while Lawrence struggles to bridge their cultures. As war grinds on, emotions unravel, leading to sacrifice and tragedy. The final scenes, quiet, haunting, reveal the human cost of pride and longing. Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence is both a war story and a tale of forbidden respect between captor and captive. Querelle.
Sur le vengeur qui accoste, querelle. Il n'est pas matelot. Il est tous les matelots du monde.
Directed by Rainer Werner Fassbinder, Querelle adapts Jean Genet's novel about Georges Querelle, a handsome sailor and criminal played by Brad Davis. Arriving in the French port of Brest, Querelle becomes entangled with a network of thieves, lovers, and murderers. He works for a smuggler named Lycion, while also attracting the attention of her husband, Nono, and several other men drawn to his dangerous charm. Carell's sexuality is fluid, his motives unclear. He seduces, betrays, and provokes in equal measure. The film unfolds in a stylized, theatrical world drenched in orange light and symbolism, where every gesture feels like ritual. Power and submission intertwine as Carell's actions lead to jealousy and death. Fassbinder's final film, Carell blurs fantasy and reality, making its characters feel trapped in an endless cycle of lust and guilt. Taxi Some Clo. Directed by and starring Frank Riplow, Taxi Some Clo is a semi-autobiographical film set in West Berlin. Riplow plays Andreas, a schoolteacher who lives a double life, teaching by day and cruising for sex by night. The film follows his daily routine: lesson plans, hookups, lovers, and long nights in smoky bars. Andreas begins a serious relationship with a man named Bernd, but his need for sexual freedom clashes with Bernd's desire for stability. Their love unravels as Andreas continues to chase anonymous encounters, revealing the loneliness behind his hedonism. The film shocked audiences with its explicit realism, but underneath the provocation is a simple human story of someone searching for connection in a fragmented world. Shot like a diary, Taxi Some Clo captures the chaotic pulse of Berlin's gay scene just before the AIDS era changed everything. Cruising.
How would you like to disappear?
Disappear?
Go undercover.
You know this man?
Directed by William Friedkin, Cruising stars Al Pacino as Frank, a New York detective sent undercover to catch a killer targeting gay men in the city's S&M clubs. To blend in, Frank immerses himself in the underground leather scene, adopting its codes and rituals. But the deeper he goes, the more blurred his identity becomes. The investigation leads him through dark clubs, late-night streets, and secret networks where fear and desire overlap. As bodies pile up, Frank begins questioning not only who the killer is, but who he's becoming. The film's ambiguity, especially about Frank's sexuality, adds to its tension. Pacino delivers a brooding, conflicted performance, surrounded by real-life extras from the 1980s gay community. Gritty, violent, and unsettling, Cruising remains one of the most controversial queer-related thrillers ever made. Now you can own them. Grab LGBTQ+ movie posters and stickers from our brand new store. Link in the description. Which film surprised you most? And which one will you stream first? Thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more films that challenge and move.